Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
It is picked off by the line. Darius Slay's got it. Coming back right side, 25. Picks up a block at the 30. Darius at the 40.
Drink it in, drink it in. Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Rolls to the right. Stafford throws deep. Got a man out there. End zone. Caught. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Marvin Jones. Stafford!
Drink it in, drink it in.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid, what is going on, everybody? We are back, and I got Grifka here. Grifka, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, it's good to be back after a W.
You absolutely got to love a W for our Detroit Lions. So,
I told you I'd always take a W no matter what.
You did, man. This team got it done in Arizona, so we're going to talk all about that. Grifka, I got to tell you, this is a first on the podcast. You want to know why?
Oh, why's that?
I made one of the greatest purchases of all time, Grifka. It was a splurge. It was something I shouldn't have done, but I had to have it. I am doing the podcast with you, Grifka, wearing a brand new pair of the Jordan 11s, the patent leathers. They just came in the mail today. I put them on with the Lions hoodie for the show. I'm feeling good. Sounds like you're feeling good. We got to talk all about this team, talk about the win at Arizona, and all types of other things. You ready to do this?
Yeah, let's get this.
So, Grifka, before we get to the Cards game, you got any updates? Are we hearing anything about Kerryon? Is he coming back? Is he not? Feels like we talk about him every week, but we're just trying to see, is he coming back? Can he play? What's going on?
Yeah, from what I'm hearing and reading, it sounds like he's going to be put on the shelf the rest of the year. I know we had talked about that, and maybe it's just the wise thing to do, but I'd like to see him just to get some more snaps, him being a rookie. But it sounds like everything coming out of Allen Park, they're just planning on putting him, in some bubble wrap and putting him on the shelf and breaking him out, early next year for the off-season programs.
See, I totally differ because I was listening to the just the other day. They did the old media session where they interview all the coordinators. You know how that goes. Like these guys normally, they're asked a bunch of things. They just talk, work their way around all these questions, never give any info. Yet they were talking with the running backs coach, and I watched it, and finally somebody sort of asked him about. I don't even think they asked him about Kerryon, which frustrated me, but they asked him about something, and so he started talking about Kerryon in some way, and he said, and I don't have the quote right in front of me, but it was really obvious that he said, when he comes back, I expect him ready to roll right away. And he said also that, he's quote unquote been resting the last few weeks, if you want to put it that way. So when he comes back, Grifka, he'll be ready to roll. So to me, that was probably kind of a slip up, or he just kind of said what he felt. But to me, that was a real tip that, 33 is not if or when or maybe. It was when he comes back. And if he does, not if, when he does, I felt like this guy sort of slipped up and said that they would give him the football just like any other day. If he's out there, he's going to be ready. So I think, I had heard recording here that he hadn't practiced here on either Tuesday or Wednesday, I think it was. But, even if you don't see him for this game, I took that definitely as kind of a slip-up that he's going to be coming back before this year's over.
I'd be happy to see it. Especially, like I said, coming against a couple of division games, just seeing more of their sets and, their personnel on what they do, because even though, rosters do change over, there's still going to be guys on those, those Packers teams and Vikings teams that he's going to see next year. So, we can talk about changes by the other teams, come the off season when we know who will be the coordinators in Green Bay. But I don't think there's going to be too much changeover in Minnesota. So I think Mike Zimmer's still going to pretty much run the same defense with a lot of the same personnel. So if he's out there seeing snaps against those guys, that can only help him next year and in the future. So if he's back from the Minnesota game, the last home game of the year, I'd be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I think that's the more realistic, is that if he doesn't practice mid to end of the midweek here. I don't know that you see him. It's not very often where you don't practice that running back basically all week and then show up on Sunday. So, we'll keep an eye on it. But if he doesn't practice, he could maybe sit out this game. This is a game in Buffalo. We'll get to it on our Friday show. That's winnable with or without, I think. So let's say that they hold him out, they win it, and like you say, he suits up against the Vikings, and then could be a bigger game towards the end of the year. So, that's kind of best case scenario. I'm hoping too that we see him, and I love that the coach said, hey, if he comes back, there's no hey, ease him back in or a few carries, he'll be ready to go. So keep an eye on that. Again, it's kind of topic number one in my mind and across social media these days. Where is Kerryon? Is he practicing? When's he coming back? Because, our other weapons are just still really beaten up, and it's been hard to watch. So, Grifka, we got to talk about this, and we'll only talk about it for a minute, but I want to rewind the tape just for a second. So a few weeks ago, we had our big argument where it was I want to just win every game, and I was more on the side of you have to sort of consider draft status. I think you took it as I didn't want to win, or I'm rooting for them to lose, where I kind of continually said, if you go back and listen to the show, reasonable minds, you have to consider draft status, you have to consider all these different factors as this game goes on. And then the next week when they were close against the Rams, I was fighting for that W, and then you tried to throw it in my face and say, I bet you're happy about draft status. So I just want to bring it up for the people to understand, before we went in this game, I think we were picking, depending on what site you look at, anywhere from 7, 8, 9 in that range. And because of the win, we only dropped down to, I've seen both 10 and 11 as sort of our status. So, you know what I mean? That's kind of that balancing act we have to do, I think, as fans. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but it has to be, you don't want to win and drop 6, 8 spots. You don't want to win, continually miss the playoffs and be picking right next to, 18, 19, 20 type of thing. But I felt good about a W and only sliding a few spots. So what's your thoughts on getting a win and slipping a little bit, or just before we get into the ball game, that whole scenario?
Yeah, it's nice that they only slipped a couple spots even with the win. And I'm sure, depending on all the scenarios out there, I don't know how far they would drop if, say they do win the last 3 and how everything else looks. I don't know if it's one of those things that just kind of shows that the team is closer than what people thought, or if the other teams that Minnesota's still playing for something. And I don't think Buffalo is not going to go out there and try, because I think they're going to try to get Allen make him look as good as possible, him to be as successful as possible just to help him. But Green Bay, who knows what Green Bay is going to be like. So I don't know if Green Bay is just going to go out there and try to lose everything or what, because, they still have opportunities to make the playoffs, but they seem, kind of out of reach right now. So even if Detroit wins out, I'm going to take all the wins. I don't care where they fall with the draft, to be honest with you. And it's one of those things, like I said, I'm always going to take the W's, but even with the win only dropping a couple spots from 8 to 10, I still feel just from hearing the top end talent, the real top end talent in this year's draft coming up, it still sounds like it's only 5, 6 guys. And then after that, there's the next step down. So Detroit's still in that 8 to 10 range. That's still that next step down. They're not, even at 8, they weren't getting that high end, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pick. So, and that's just what I'm reading, that the real top end is only about 5, 6 players deep in this draft. And that's not counting, where people reach for quarterbacks and stuff like that. So 8 to 10, you're still on that second level. And, I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I hear you there. I guess I'm all over Lions Twitter, and it's always North or South Pole. There's people that every time they play decent or win, it's just the worst thing ever. And then when they lose, everybody's bummed that want to, are fans of this team, want them to win. So it's a really hard one to walk, and I kind of see both sides. But again, I've always fought for it. It's not all one or the other. I don't want to root ever against my team, especially when that ball kicks off on Sunday. I'm right there with them, but like you say, it's definitely something to keep an eye on here. And like you say, not a big slide. Now the haters would tell you that, well, yeah, but if you lose that game against Arizona, you go all the way up to 3, and it's kind of Come on. You didn't want us to go down to Arizona and get whooped. Like, no matter, even a guy like me that loves a high draft pick and knows how valuable it is, I don't want to go to Arizona and get whooped by Josh Rosen and a bunch of bums. So,
yeah, that team,
again, I was
that Arizona
happy about
team
the
just
victory.
looks sorry, man. It's like, if you went down there and lose that game, I mean, it's just like, oh, gosh.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in 1 second. So Grifka, the last item before we jump into the game review I want to talk to you about is, do you have your Lions playoff tickets yet? Because there's been a bunch of rumblings about all these scenarios where the Lions have a 3% chance to make it, and if this, and this happens, they can get in if they win all their games. Like, you've been keeping up with all this because it really seems to be catching steam. Those that are drinking the Detroit Koolaid, like me and you, are got all the scenarios figured out, and they've already got this team with a good chance of getting in the playoffs, even though percentages are still looking rough. I mean, what's your thoughts on this whole thing?
I was reading those things, and even say like you said, the stars need to align, and it's got to be an act of God for them to make the playoffs. And I'm kind of like, let's not jump the shark here and say that they're going to make the playoffs. And but yeah, I'm very okay, you guys go ahead. You guys want, go ahead. I will watch the last few games just for sheer enjoyment because I'm a Lions fan. I can't foresee them getting the playoffs because there's a lot of dominoes that need to fall in that scenario for them to even slide in as the last seed. So I was reading that stuff too, and I'm just like, okay, just pump the brakes here. Okay, there we go.
So Grifka, I'm there with you, but I see this tweet come out again. I've been working on our Detroit Koolaid Twitter a bit and kind of connecting with these other Lions fans. And so I see this post come up and it kind of tells scenarios, and I'm kind of like, you can't have all that stuff happen and have them rip them off. And then, let me paint this picture for you. The more I see it, and the more I really look at the teams that have to lose, or teams only have to lose a game here, or 2 out of 3, and, the Redskins lose, which they're terrible right now. The Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid gets churning, and I start thinking, oh, man, these scenarios aren't, as crazy as they first seemed. And then I also look at it, and I go, we're playing Buffalo in Buffalo. There's no reason we can't not only hang in this game but win it. We got the Vikings at home, and then depending on if Green Bay continues to absolutely tank it up and be terrible, they could be playing for nothing at the end of the game in the frozen tundra. So Grifka, take yourself out of your body for a minute and say, what if the Lions ripped off 3 dubs? All these other scenarios happen. Let's say they rip off 2 dubs. All these scenarios happen, and we're going into Lambeau Field. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is sitting down, and if we win, and a couple of things happen or have already happened, we win and we get in. That would be one of the cooler moments in Detroit sports history, of this team being totally off the map, us being totally frustrated with them, yet they just make this crazy run at the end, and all the chips fall perfectly and they get in. Could you imagine that? It'd be crazy.
Let's do this. So I watched a little bit of that game on Monday night, and then Tuesday I woke up to go to work because I have to get up early, and I flip on ESPN because I just want to see who won the game, because since I was watching it a little bit, and I saw that Seattle won, and no lie, the first thing that crossed my mind was, well, that helps the Lions. It did. I'm like, well, that helps the Lions. And then Tuesday night, I'm watching NFL Network at 7:00. I mean, I love that show. And the first thing, because they show the standings, of the playoff picture with everything. And there's some teams with 8 losses. But Detroit, they don't have Detroit listed. And the thing across my mind is where's Detroit? It's so stupid. But you said, all these things that could happen. Those were the thoughts that crossed my mind. Honestly, that crossed my mind when I saw those 2 things right there. And then after I realized, I stepped back, I'm going, if this team makes the playoffs, gosh, man, I'm like, who they got left? I'm like, who's left to play on this team? I mean, injuries, guys on IR. I mean, so I'm just like, okay, calm down a little bit. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
If, like I said, if the stars aligned and, everything happened where they snuck in the back door. But, I mean, like I'm telling you, those were the thoughts that crossed my mind when I saw that Minnesota lost. And how come Detroit wasn't on the graphic on NFL Network when they showed the playoffs? Who was left and where?
Yeah, man, it's crazy to even bring it up and like think about it, but like, just my fandom got going, and I just thought, what if? Like, if we want to be realistic here, I mean, I don't see it happening. If we had Marv rolling, if Carry-On's out there, if we got Kennard there, if Hands not, all these people aren't dinged up, Ziggy's done, like, I'd be thinking, man, we got the horsepower. If we can get in, like, who knows? But, without all those pieces, it does seem very, very unlikely along with all the dominoes. But, they always say if you get in, you just never know. So even just getting in would be a huge feat. So all you Kool-Aid drinkers out there, that was for you. Keep working those scenarios. Keep working the ESPN playoff machine and figure out how we can get this thing to happen. Because, man, would Matt, Pat, and the whole organization have a feather in their cap and be able to shove it up right in front of the face of all the haters if they were able to pull off that miracle. So, Grifka, now that we've got the Kool-Aid fully poured, how about we talk about this Cardinals win? How about that?
Yeah, let's do that.
So, Grifka, this was a game, we knew it wasn't a good team. We knew we were struggling with injuries. We weren't playing very well. We go down to Arizona and get a 17-3 victory. I mean, it wasn't pretty. There's lots of things we're going to kind of get into here. I mean, a couple quick hits. I mean, describe that first half in 3 words, Grifka. Can you do that for me?
Yeah, let me try. And the first one would be kind of, I guess, surprising. I know during last week's, I guess, forecasting of this game, I thought Josh Rosen would pass for a lot more yards than what he did, and look a little better than what he did. So I was surprised by that. Once again, I guess I'll say surprising. How the defense, the Detroit Lions defense, played a lot better than what I thought it would. So I'll go surprising, and I guess kind of boring, to be honest with you. I wish that offense was somewhere to see that stat that Matt Stafford only finished with 101 yards passing or 110 yards passing. I mean, it was almost kind of like watching a high school offense out there. So those would be my 3 words for the first half of that game.
Grifka, when I say 3 words to describe it, you can't use 2 of the same words. And then, I mean,
there's not too many
that?
words to describe the first half of that game and put a good spin on it. Sorry.
I thought you were going with the surprise gimmick, but then you changed the last word. It was like, oh my goodness. Now, I saw the same question on the new Lions Twitter feed I've been working on. It was from Justin Rogers, I believe. He said the same question. And so, like, I've been doing some in-game tweeting and just kind of, again, having some fun with the Kool-Aid drinkers out there. And he describe this first half in 3 words. And this was before the second half got going. And I just wrote, bad Chinese food. That's what I felt like the first half was, and some bad Chinese food that just did not sit well. It was just kind of like you knew it didn't look that good when you took it out of the little carton they put it in, but it was real funky once you got to eating it. So that first half was brutal, but obviously our team turned it around in the second half and got going. Grifka, top 3 players for the Lions, in your opinion, for this ball game. What did you see?
Number 1, you know who it's got to be with me. It's got to be Big Play. The way he jumped that route.
No doubt.
I mean, yeah, Big Play's got to be number 1.
Living up to the nickname on that one.
Number 2, I thought he had a real good game. I know you always accuse me of not giving him enough hype, and I'm always looking at his downside, but I thought Jared Davis played a good game. He, if it's one of those things, like if he could just play like that every week, I'm on your back, but gosh, he just up and down. Like that game was up, so if he continues to ascend like that, I'm very, very happy with that. And then
he's been up the last couple, Grifka. You just have only noticed his bad plays. He's been up the last few. I bet you, 3 out of the last 5, he's been good to really good.
And then the last one, gosh, I almost don't want to say it because it's like the guy everybody pines for every year, and it's got to be Double Z. I mean, he did what he was supposed to do. That last drive of the game where they were talking about it was like that whole drive was him. at the end, going up and and scoring. I just don't know if it was one of those things like Arizona's like, okay, this game's done, it's over with, or because if they get the stop, they get the ball back, they can go and score. But the offensive line did pretty well, and Zach Zenner ran the ball pretty hard. So those would be the three guys I would pick for that game.
Everybody, if you didn't listen to it, go back to one of our earlier shows where Grifka went on and on about how everybody loves Zach Zenner because everybody loves people with double initials. And that was like his reasoning why he was a fan favorite and why he was good. He was just like, I don't know, double
it's the
initials.
alliteration, man.
Everybody
it's the
loves
alliteration
that.
of his name.
I was like, what? Oh, man. Grifka, did you know that your boy Big Play Slay, this is his first pick six ever? I mean, kind of weird to have that nickname and only house one. Come on.
Yeah, to be honest with you, when I saw that, I was just like, I started thinking, like, are they wrong? It's like, wow, really? But, yeah, I mean, that did kind of take me aback right there, seeing that was his first pick six.
Everybody, that was a Grifka bell for To Be Honest With You. That's a classic Grifka go-to. I don't know if you're not honest with us all the other times, but people keep track of how many To Be Honest With You's Grifka hits us with. So I think those were three great names that you brought up, Grifka. Like for me, Slay was the obvious, but I mean, how many times do I have to say it on the show, man? Snacks. This guy makes such a difference. Like every run play, he's in the mix. He's pulling the running back down. He's in his gap. Just incredible play by this guy. I mean, I love what I see. If I have to pick a couple different names than you, I mean, again, number 91, Ashawn, as I call him, was jumping off the screen again to me, not only of like his play and a couple of the plays he made, but how good is it when they did the ultra close-up of Ashawn at least a few times inside the helmet? He's got the crazy sweat going. He looks like he just hates people, which I think is awesome for a defensive tackle. He should just hate everyone on the planet, which is great. So I thought Ashawn played another incredible game. And then if I got to pick a third one, who could I get here? I mean, I'm just going to do a Grifka, and I'm going to agree with you. Like, I've been trying to stick up for Jared Davis. Like, he flashed all over the field. I mean, he's blitzing. I think he had a sack, if not a sack and a half. He had a couple of, like, plays that jumped off the screen where he diagnosed whatever was going on. Bam, hit it, made a huge play. So I think that's only encouraging to see. But I saw a thing today where they mic everybody up, and they had Jared Davis on the sideline mic'd up, and he was just like, they can't deal with me. They can't hold me. And one of his players was like, you just hit that and win, bro. They can't deal with you. And he was going nuts, which I love on the sideline. We need more leaders and more dogs and more people out there that are just getting after it on Sundays on the field. So I thought, like, by the way he was talking, the way he played, it was just awesome. So those are my top three.
I just want to comment on your Ashawn Robinson pick, which
Ashawn.
What I'm liking about Ashawn, because it seems like throughout the league, through the history, get ready for your bell, that there's two different types of defensive tackles. I'm talking the ones that are good, but like the ones that seem to go out there just like having a good time. They're going to pal around with you. They're going to beat you on the defensive line, sack your quarterback, and then they're going to joke about it with you. Like your John Randalls and your Warren Sapps, those guys. Like, I want to go have a beer with this guy after the game. Yeah. But then there's the guys out there, and this is what Ashawn Robinson reminds me of. He's like the guy with the nasty streak, man. It's like those old Raiders, man, like Lyle Alzado and John Matuzak. Those guys are just like, you always talk, you don't want to meet this guy in a dark alley. I don't want to meet those guys when the alley's well lit and there's a bunch of people around. And that's what Ashawn Robinson's reminding me of. It's just like, hey, dude, hey, nice to see you. Yeah, you stay over there. It's cool. He's got that nasty streak, and I think that's what the Lions really, really need. And I think him getting benched early on has really lit that fire underneath him. And so Ashawn, he's really, really impressed me as the years went on. One of the bright spots on the team.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot better, and I think you hit it on the head there with the nice streak. But before we get on to the next topic, Grifka, if you're going to say the man's name, can you at least say it right? Come on.
Oh, what, Ashawn? Is that what
Come on, a little bit better.
I can't do that, man.
Give the man some respect.
I can't do it on command. I got to be feeling.
You can't do this. Hey, Sean. You can't do that.
Okay, that's enough.
Come on, bro. This guy deserves it. He's gonna think you're disrespecting him. Maybe Grifka's address is 2-5. No, okay.
He comes knocking up.
You don't want that guy mad at you.
He's gonna push over my lit Santa on my front porch and then knock on my door.
Right. Say my name. Yeah. You got to respect the man. But yeah, he's been great and really been flashing on Sunday. So that's been awesome. Grifko, who do you think didn't play well in this game for our Lions? Either side of the ball, or just in general.
Didn't play that well. I didn't see like a lot of bad per se, but just some disappointing things once again. I mean, I guess the biggest disappointment with me would be once again Rick Wagner. I mean, the guy, I think he went out with a concussion. I mean, one of those guys that, paid a lot of money to, was supposed to like stabilize the right side of the line and, hurt again. So I know you can go to like Pro Football Weekly or whatever it's called, and they'll show you like his numbers, like, oh, he's this and this. He just doesn't seem to be, what the Lions are paying him. So that would probably be the biggest disappointment, for me. I didn't see it's not like every week where you see like Nevin Lawson just getting burned on the defense, because that didn't happen this week. And like I said, Davis, played pretty well, but that would be the biggest disappointment for the game would be Wagner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up his name because he, doesn't get talked about much, but like he hasn't really had a very good season. He's getting paid a ton of money over there. I mean, it just feels like we have to be better. But if I had to bring up one name, there's only one name. I mean, I'm curious what you thought of him, but he doesn't have the weapons, this, that, and the other. Like, I mean, come on, Matt Stafford, 101 yards, like just making a few throws here or there. Like, I'm not expecting you to throw for 450 and 4 touchdowns, but I mean, I just looked at him again and just thought, not only him, but the old coordinator. I mean, this is not 2018 football that we're playing. And I know the coaches, especially Matt Pat, might be saying, hey, let's grind it out. Let's play a slow game. But I just don't like what I see from our quarterback right now. I feel like he didn't play well. He did make a couple plays that did help us, but, not enough to where, I definitely can't put him in the good category, and I'm going to put him in this category just because, hey, man, limping around with a back, he's got this, that, and the other. Everybody's got ailments. Like, you don't have your weapons. There's still other quarterbacks and other leaders out there that still step up on Sundays and play great. And I can't tell you the last time he's really played great. So I'm putting him in my didn't play well category for that reason. Was it the Bears game, Thanksgiving, where I talked, with the flip to carry on? Like, maybe he just didn't want to get hit, and that's why he flipped the ball. The one play, it was in the first half where I know where you're going.
Where Stafford was all he had to do was run for like 5 yards and get the first down, but he threw it behind Bruce Ellington. Like, he tried to throw it behind him so he wouldn't lead him into the safety, and that's what the announcer was saying. It's just like, I'm like, why didn't he just run for it and slide? I mean, there was nobody in front of him. It was like 3rd and 3, and I mean, and still he steps up in the pocket, scrambles out, and then he throws kind of back across his body behind Ellington, when all he had to do was, take, 3 or 4 more steps and he gets the first down. But that's one of the things. I just don't know if he just doesn't want to get hit because of his back. And he tried to throw it to Ellington and made a bad pass. So, yeah.
I mean, we're nitpicking a bit, but I want to say that was Big Mike Roberts where he kind of on that play, if I do have it right, because that same play, he's 3rd down.
Yeah, Roberts is who
there
it was.
Was nothing but
Roberts, not
grass. He kind of threw it behind him in his back pocket, and then, not only was it annoying because, like you said, just didn't want to run and get it, but the placement was bad. The mechanics, again, that's something I always got on Matt Stafford about. Yeah, it's fun to see the sidearm and the this, that, but, some of these simple throws, you have to be able to put it on people properly. And he had another one like that to Big Mike. He had a one, I think it was to Ellington, just in a different situation where the placement was bad, just kind of sloppy the way he threw it, and just can't have it, man. I'm right with you on that play, and people that are new listening probably, this is a Matt Stafford. We're both fans, I would say, Grifko. We supported him, we continue to support him, but we definitely have to call out those issues when he's the leader of this team. He's the highest paid guy, and he's playing. I mean, we could get anybody to come in and throw for 101 and just run a a terrible game plan like that, right? You can get
Matt Castle
a
to do
backup.
that.
Right. I was going to say, you could get our backup to do that. You could get a guy that's mid to lower tier in the NFL. You could even get lots of backups in the NFL on any team to sort of do that for you. So he's paid way too much. And, games like this, we shouldn't have to grind some of them out. Like, you come out and you throw the ball the way you should. You actually get creative on offense. We should be able to put the pedal to the metal. But anyway, he goes down as my didn't play well, even though he did just enough and we did win the game. And I know it was partly game plan. But Grifka, we probably already talked about it, or you probably did on your side. But play of the game, let's say any plays of the game other than Slay that you remember that jumped off to you?
Yes, I see the good. The one I instantaneously thought of when this happened was obviously the good luck of the Ford Field upright made its way out to Arizona, and it was nice to see the kicker from Arizona hit the upright on that long field goal, because when he kicked it, it looked good. And I'm like, oh, that's good. And all of a sudden, right near the end, it did a beeline right for the upright and it missed. So that one kind of cracked me up. I'm like, thinking, it's happened in Detroit, a bunch this year at Ford Field. So it's nice to see it happen on the road as well.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy all year how many uprights. I want to say we've seen about 6 to 7 uprights hit, which, like, if you get 1 or 2 in a year, it's just crazy. But 6 or 7 is just unbelievable. So that definitely was one kind of funny. I guess, and I'm talking plays of the game. I mean, you could call out one, but I think Double Z, your boy Zach Zenner, had a multiple on that drive that kind of sealed it, where we just. To me, Zach Zenner, the one thing I've always liked about him, I mean, everybody talks about his intelligence and how he's going to medical school and whatnot, but every time he's been in the ball game, if it's blocked up decently, I mean, he gets out to the edge, puts his foot in the ground, and gets forward, for whatever's there. And sometimes it's, 1 yard, whatever it may be, but if there's a little crease, I mean, this guy has always sort of got 3, 6, 8 yards. On most plays when he's in. So I thought Zach Zenner had some plays of the game, just the way he ran, and then even the touchdown. I feel like he didn't mess around. He just ran the ball where it was called, made a little move here or there, followed his blockers, and got in. And sometimes that's all you need. I think Pat talks about that a lot, of just like, you just not only have to do your job, as they say in New England, but if you just kind of follow the techniques, the plays, the way these, people have it drawn up, especially a guy like Matt Pat that's won big games as an assistant and on the defensive side, like, it's going to work for you. And that's what I see on the defense is, they had some great plays in this game, and it's because they're just doing what they're being coached now, and it's nothing flashy, but it's getting the job done. So my play of the game would go to Zach Zenner on that drive and that touchdown. But sometimes the little things are super important. So great to get a victory, Grifka. Let's tackle a couple just kind of discussion type items, bounce these around before we get to some questions that came in today, and then we'll close up this episode. So, Grifka, how do you feel about Matt Pat this season? I mean, we only got a few games left. Like, what's your overall impression, or pull out some nuggets of now that you've seen multiple games and different opponents? What are you thinking about this guy as our head coach?
It's been very up and down so far. There's games, like we said, like the Rams game, even though they lost, it was close for a while. The New England game, the Green Bay game, even the Arizona game to some extent. We know Arizona's a little lesser of an opponent, where they just look really, really good. The game plan seems to work. Defensively, they seem to really come about, make plays. But then there's other games that are just left, scratching my head. It's just like the team looks unprepared. It just doesn't seem like adjustments are made, and stuff like that, where it's just up and down. And if you can just put it together and you have more of the good games than not good games, I'll be pretty happy. I'm still in this boat. I mean, I'm not, one of those people, fire him. But I think he's got to string more of those good games together than the ones where, Leafs fans and us like talking about what happened here and why this happened here. And, I'm still on his bandwagon, but he just needs to, once again, first time head coach, learning stuff, but he's still got to show me a little bit.
All right, but I just want to hit you on one counterpoint. Like you say up and down, like, just thinking about it out loud. When you say like a lot of that up and down or unpreparedness came in the first quarter and a half of the season, like I feel like they've been pretty consistent now for at least, 5 to 6 weeks worth where they've been way better on defense, seem to scheme out, find a game plan, some victories, hung in some ball games. Like, we haven't had any big, huge disappointment, blowouts, bad ball games in a while, I want to say.
I mean, the last one I can really think about is that Chicago game in Chicago. That team that went in there just did not look good at all.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But like I say, it's always a matter of, where they, when you say not prepared, like to me that kind of goes over my head or through my ears because like no team is not prepared on Sundays. You know what I mean? They all practice. They all have a game plan. They all work hard, as they always say every week. It's just, did it work? Did it not? Why didn't it? You know what I mean? Those things come into the game plan. But I think, overall, I was not impressed in the beginning, but as we continue to play more, which again, I kind of advocated in the beginning that, you start a new job, like you're not great at the beginning, you get the hang of it, you start to know the people, boom, and things start to roll. I want to say that's what we're seeing now is if you give it not only a little time, but more time heading into the end of this year, early next year, you got a much better idea of really what this guy's about and what he's bringing to this organization rather than the first 4 games, just not good enough. He's not good enough. Like, hey, let this guy get some time under his belt and see what he builds. So I've been encouraged what I see, and even with all the injuries, like I think it's been a good thing. Do you think, Grifka, that he or the team in general has quote unquote game planned any wins this year? I mean, do you think they've outthunk the other team? They've been able to put something together where they shouldn't have won or shouldn't have hung in a ball game and were able to? Or do you think they've kind of done what they should have in most games?
I think the biggest one that comes to mind with me has got to be that New England game because, like, I swear nobody gave him a chance. We didn't give him a chance. We predicted that game as a loss, and I think nobody was giving that one a chance at all, and they surprised me, pretty well. They surprised me, and the next game that really did that for me was probably the Rams game, where Goff looked more confused and wasn't passing the ball. I just don't know if like the league's figuring him out, but the defensive game plan they had for him, that really impressed me for them to hang around, and just the offense really let them down that game. And the final score is not indicative of how close that game actually was, and so those would probably be the 2 games that stick out in my mind where the game plan worked, for lack of a better term, even though one of them was lost. The offensive game plan in that Rams game, or the offensive production, really is what cost them there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought those are the 2 games you'd mentioned. I mean, I guess for me, I like what he did in that Carolina game, just being able to play great defense, hold them down, win in the end, that type of thing. And then even this game in Arizona, I feel like went down there. I know we're taking it for granted, like, we shouldn't have lost to Arizona, and they didn't play very well, this, that, and the other. Like, that's a road win in the NFL. I mean, you have to not only game plan, but also deal the cards you're dealt with all these injuries and all these other stuff. And I feel like he did that this past game. Just seems to talk about every week, we got to figure out how to beat the Bills. Next week, we'll worry about the Vikes. You know what I mean? I think that kind of approach, along with, finally, I think we have a guy that thinks outside the box and, like, has enough winning experience, even if it's not as a head coach, that I have faith in him that as he gets more acclimated, as they get more talent, more players, that this is a guy that literally, how every year, Grifka, they used to always say, like, well, we do whatever we have to win that week, whether it's pass, run, win it 10-3 or win it 40-35. How they always say that.
Yeah.
But like, it never seemed like that was the case. It never seemed like we could really adapt and play both ways, or kind of play the type of game we needed to win. It was just like something fun to say at your press conference. I'm starting to think like that if we look at it on paper and go, hey, this is going to be an ugly game in Buffalo when we talk about it on Friday, I'm thinking that Matt Pat and some of his people that he has, not Jim Bob, are going to be able to sort of figure out the little things they can do, taking a player out, playing this type of defense, scheming up a play or two for this player on offense to be able to win games, and I think that's really important. So I think he has game planned some wins, and I think you'll just see more and more of that as we go forward. Grifka, what is this O-line that we have? Like, not only now, but moving forward, like, what do you think about him? I'm totally lost on this offensive line.
Moving forward with the O-line, I think Lang is finished unless they can get him to, take some massive pay cut to hang around. But I don't even know if he would do that. I think he just might outright retire for all of the concussions he had. And I know earlier when we were doing, in the preseason or even before the preseason started, we were doing our salary cap shows, and we talked about Rick Wagner and how his salary increases. And actually, I think in 2 years it really, really jumps. And I had mentioned, like, if his production doesn't increase, he could be a cap casualty in 2 years. So I don't think the Lions would wants to go change the whole offensive right side of the line. I don't think they would do that next year. I think they would look to replace Lang, and I don't think that's going to be done in-house. But then, yeah, in 2 years, if Wagner's really still kind of playing that middle-of-the-road type thing, I mean, Crosby didn't do that bad when he was out there, on Sunday. I mean, he could be the replacement for him. He could be that guy taking his place. And to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, Taylor Decker. I mean, it's one of those things. I'm still not sold on him as our stud left tackle. He's very average to me. Like, I've compared him to Jeff Backus, and that's just kind of the way I feel about him. So right now, I think the only two guys that are kind of set for sure are Ragnow and Glasgow. Other than that, I mean, I think they're going to stick with Taylor Decker. But I could see Lang gone next year. In 2 years, I could see Rick Wagner not here and Crosby putting there at the right tackle position.
Yeah, I mean, here's my beef with you, Grifka, on that. It's like, again, I brought it up a few weeks ago about us as Lions fans, always thinking we're going to hit on every draft pick, we're going to win every game, we're going to have good players everywhere. Like, you just nailed the three somewhat issues or weak spots. Like, to me, you're not going to have five studs, right? So I'm agreeing with you that you always seen some holes in Taylor Decker's game, but until we had a much better option, like, he's the guy over there, and he's been better than, not, you know what I mean, as far as his play. Yeah, of course, every NFL guy is going to get whooped on some plays, going to have some issues. TJ Lang, it's a medical thing. I mean, I can go either way. I'd love to see him bounce back, and he's got the heart of a lion, I think. Pun intended, I guess, on that one, where I could see him if he's medically healthy and wanted to prove everybody wrong, come back and play well, but I could just see him hanging it up too. And then, like, to me, Rick Wagner, like you said, whatever his salary, I mean, I think he's proving that he's just okay. He's being overpaid to be okay. So I'd be looking to either upgrade that spot or, need to see a lot more from him. But my opinion is if you can have 3 or 4, maybe 4, that should be a good offensive line. And this has not been a very – well, let me stop there. That's why I said I'm so confused. When I say this has not been a good offensive line, I think they have been pretty good, especially like this game. I feel like they were moving people. They're being a little nasty, this, that, and the other. But they're just not consistent enough. And for what we're paying, late-round picks and a bunch of bums and stuff – but for what we're paying, like, I'm just not blown away by the push to get. The ability to pass block, should be way better. So my beef with you is that we're never going to have 5 absolute beast studs, even though we love that. But how can we make this line better so that we see what we wanted to see in the beginning of the year, which is keep Stafford clean and get a little more push so that we can actually run the ball on 3rd and short and we can score touchdowns when we're inside the 10. And I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, we're not. I don't want to say we're, really far off, but like I said, I think the two guys right now are Ragnow and Glasgow. Those would be the guys that they have to build around, and that's just kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah, we'll have to bring it up in a different show. I don't have it. I didn't look it up, but I was just thinking the other day. I'm pretty sure Glasgow is up this year. I think his contract's up.
Yeah, I
so
think he's.
they're going to have to decide to bring him back, or what's your game plan? Do they plan to play Ragnow over there and move him over? Do they want to re-sign? I think Glasgow's been better than average, but I know Frank has said he always felt a little more natural at center. That's kind of what he's always done until this year. So I'm curious what that long-term plan is, because if you let Glasgow over, now we really gotta reconsider this line, where they're going, what pieces we need, all that type of stuff. But bottom line, me and you are both saying they got to be better.
Yeah.
So last little thing I have, Grifka, is what's your plan in very broad strokes, like, for this team? I know we have a couple more games to go, but just, we want to give all the details. We'll talk about a lot of off-season stuff when we get there, but give the people a couple big things that jump out to you now that, like, you think, hey, if we do this and this, just kind of in general, it make a big difference moving forward.
The biggest thing is pass rush. I don't know what they're going to do, either draft or free agency. And I know there's always a couple names that are floated out there, and even like some of the bigger pass rush guys, those are the ones everybody's saying they'll just probably either be franchised again or just re-sign with their team. But I think a pass rush would definitely help this team out a lot. And the second broad stroke has to be, it's the defensive backfield. And I know we had talked, we thought that was the strength of the team and early on, but Grover Quinn's a little long in the tooth. Obviously, whoever's opposite of Darius Slay isn't that great. Not that great. And then, so I think those would be the two biggest things right there. A pass rush, at least something, sustainable. I realize guys aren't, some pass rushes are not every game, they're just looking all dominant and everything. They have off games, but this team seems to have more off games than on games at the pass rush. So I think those would be the two biggest things I would like to see improve on this team in broad strokes.
Yeah. Real quickly on my end, I think we just talked about one. I loved Bob Quinn's plan of, dedicating resources to offensive line, getting that figured out. That would help not only, the offensive line is one of the only areas that helps multiple parts of your team. It helps your run game, it helps your pass game, it helps your nastiness of your team, all these different things they can do if you have a really good one up front. So I think they got to get that figured out, and then not to double up on your pass rush, because again, that's the obvious. I think because it's a passing league, it seems like the last few years they put a little more resources into some corners, but they haven't got the right ones. So I'm really thinking, while we have a guy like Slay who has a good, 3-5 year window where he can be that top echelon lockdown type corner, find a way to go get another one or two guys that can really guard people in the pass game. Sure, that up will help your rush and help all these teams that love to wing it around the yard. The only way to really do that is either get to the quarterback or be able to guard people. And I think, really talented corners, and I think you sort of hit on the back end, safeties are in there as well, but I feel like we're kind of decent there, but the opposite corner is a big issue to me. So that's kind of what I see as, a couple things that we could do to really get this thing right. And like I say, if we're picking decently high in the draft, I think it makes it a little bit easier to get some of these premier players that can help those areas. So we'll see what happens there. So Grifka, great win, Arizona. You know what I mean? We've talked about a lot of issues, but again, me and you both at the end of the day, basically always root for this team, drink the Kool-Aid, and it's always exciting to walk away from a Sunday afternoon with a W in your back pocket. So happy to have that again. How about we do some questions that came in, and we'll finish this episode up.
Yeah, let's see what the people are asking us.
All right. I think you'll like this first one, Grifka. It comes from Jim, and Jim's from the XFL headquarters. Jim would like to know, what was that play in Miami? Was that pass it back and forth kind of thing? And then he also wants to know, hey, Grifka, do you ever remember any crazy ending of ball games, I guess positive or negative for the Lions? I was going to say positive, but we know there's been a couple that have been tough.
Oh gosh, that play in Miami, that was it's one of those things where I'm never the guy that likes to count my chickens before they hatch. I've told you that before, because that seems like something like that would happen, and that just left me. I saw I was watching the game and I saw the bottom line, and then it came up and saying, "Oh gosh, the Dolphins just beat the Patriots on the most amazing play," and then they showed the highlight, and I was just like, I just kind of laughing about it. Just biggest thing I laughed about is like watching Gronkowski, that guy just stumble over his own feet and miss the tackle. It's just like, yeah, I just want to be like the Nelson Muntz from The Simpsons. I go, ha ha. It's like serves you right for being out there. So, yeah, that cracked me up. But say the biggest, the most amazing thing for a Lions finish. Gosh, I'm trying to think of something amazing that happened where they won. But the one that crossed my mind when you mentioned it was like the playoff game where the Lions, gosh, it was last time they won the division. And they were at the Silverdome, and near the end of the game, somehow Brett Favre finds Sterling Sharp just kind of standing by himself down the sideline, and he wings it down. It's like, how are you letting Sterling Sharp it's like did Sterling Sharp come off the sideline or something? He's just standing there, but he was like that wide open for the touchdown pass, and yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Brett Favre made a heck of a throw going. He was on one side of the field, he threw it back across the other side, but still, Sterling Sharp, I mean, at least put somebody on him. You're letting the referee guard him, obviously, but that would be like the biggest what happened moments, so to me.
Kool-Aid drinkers out there that had the bet in Vegas that Grifka was going to bring up that play to Sterling Sharp. You go to the ticket window and collect your money because everybody knew you were going to bring that one up. Grifka, I always got to be
the worst part about that is though the odds on
that
were not that great, so their payout's not going to be that good. So,
Would you say not that great?
Yeah, not that great.
I got to be the positive one on the show, Grifka. So, of course, you bring up that game. Now, let me flip the script. You're like, oh, I can't remember. There was a certain game a couple years ago, probably 4 years ago, where a certain quarterback, number 9, Matt Stafford, in Dallas, had one of the greatest comebacks of all time and ended the ball game. An absolute man's game move where he put the ball over the top when he looked like he was going to spike it to win the game. I mean, to me, in my time as a Lions fan, that has to be one of the greater, wow, crazy, incredible moments because, I mean, it was over and done. That game was done with, and we came all the way back, and to end it like that was sweet. So I know it wasn't a pass back and forth kind of thing, Jim, but that was still pretty incredible, no doubt about it. And Grifka, Jim from the XFL headquarters ends his question with, thanks for answering my question and things of that nature. So we appreciate it. Our next question, Griff, comes from Jim as well, and he's from Ann Arbor. He wants to know, do you think Matt Pat has some big plans here with the Lions?
Yeah, they're big plans. Get him over the hump and get the type of team here that he wants here. I guess those would be his big plans that I know of. Everything else he holds close to his vest. So, I did sit upright, in my chair when I answered that question. So I am trying to respect the process.
Do you mean, you said close to the vest, don't you mean close to the big black trash bags that he wears every week?
Yeah, his hefty cinch sack. Yeah.
And Jim in Ann Arbor, I just want you to know that Matt Pat's not considering any other NFL or college jobs because, yes, he has some big plans and he's building something here. So don't ask him about it. Don't ask us about it anymore. Okay, Jim? The next one, Grifka. Wow, this is crazy. It's a lot of coincidences here with this question, Grifka. But this one comes from Sean from Bama. And he wants to know, do you want a team of choir boys, Grifka, or do you want a team with some nasty players that don't like people? What kind of team do you want?
Gosh, I would...
Don't disrespect Ashan's question.
Gosh, I'd always take the guys with the nasty streak. I mean, there's plenty of nice guys, good guys in the NFL, but it seems like the Lions have had a lot of those guys, and they just don't seem to get anywhere. So if we could flip the script, and I know it's like they have the coaches really laid back, the players coach, Steve Mariucci, and then they bring in the guy who's like, the guy that's really going to try to run them and get the most out of them, and not be that nice, Jim Schwartz. They always try it with the coach, but it always seems like the players are still kind of like the same, like the shucks, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nice to have nice guys, doing stuff with the community, but I want that guy, like when the helmet's strapped on, they turn into the guy you don't want to run into in a dark alley. So
Griffin, I'm so glad you said that, because I need to call you out, which I love doing on this show, because there's been many a times, not only in the draft process, but afterwards, where like we'll draft a guy with character issues or has some drug issues, and you'll hate on it. Oh man, yeah, I hope he's off the pipe. You know what I mean? Or then he plays for us. He has a couple issues. You're like, oh man, the guy can't stay off the police blotter. You know what I mean? When we had Jim Schwartz bringing in a bunch of prison convicts. So you may say nasty players, but I've heard you many a times hate on people after the fact or guess that they're not going to be able to do it. But I've always been a guy that's like, in the NFL, man, again, not to go back to our talk about dogs, but you got to have some nasty players. You got to take some risks in the draft, calculated risk. Go ahead.
Wait, I want to
hear the.
Are you kidding me? This is the one, like, just last week, the week before, I heard you, moaning and groaning about Ndamukong and Suh, and I said I would take this guy back on the team in a second. You're like, oh, he's all about himself, and all like he's a dirty player. I would take that guy back on the Lions in a second. I mean, but so to say like whine about the guys on the police blotter and stuff like that, I'm just like, okay, so I guess I don't want Pac-Man Jones. I mean, yeah, sorry about that, but I mean, I would have drafted Warren Sapp when he came out just because he had a, they said that, he had a little weed in his system or something like that. I'm like, okay, but to say that I just want the choir ball all the time like that, I would have to differ with you on that.
Okay, well, you must be forgetting the times where you called me. I talked about Nick Fairley being a nasty defensive tackle, and you said how he.
I said he was lazy.
Okay.
I said he was lazy. I didn't say that. I didn't say he wasn't a quarterback. I said he was lazy, and I didn't want him because he takes a lot of plays off.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure if we could rewind the tape back when all these people were getting arrested for Jim Schwartz, you were not happy, but you were ragging on the Lions, why they draft all these players that can't stay off the weed, off the drugs, like, and now you want all these nasty players just because you want Ndamukong and Suh. I mean, he wasn't nasty coming out of school. He just had a little bit nasty on the field when he was here with the Lions. So, I mean, I'm just calling you a little bit that I bet it's easy to say after the fact, but I haven't ever heard you say many times, hey, take this guy with character issues. You wait till after to say, see, I told you so.
Oh, okay. Once again, here, get the belt. Reasonable minds can differ, but I think you're stringing a narrative around to, make yourself sound like you want all the guys. You just want to go down to you want to go to the Jackson State Prison and find the guys that were playing with Adam Sandler, on the Mean Machine. So
I didn't say that. I think it's just like my other argument. Like, it's a mix. Like, yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Like, I like having the guys that, you can count on and that are solid, but every team that's good, if you go back through the history, most teams that are good, if not all, they had at least less than a handful of nasty players or players with backgrounds and character. That's the only way, because you can't have 53, perfect players. I mean, some of these guys that are really good NFL players are going to have things in their background. They're going to have some things, but can you get over that? Can you have a culture that cultivates that? So, like you said, reasonable minds will differ, but I'm just saying that, I want the Lions to overall be a good team with good people, but they need to start adding a couple of those wild cards, whether it's a guy that will yell at people in the locker room, whether it's a guy that, maybe had character and slipped in the draft, they take him. Maybe it's a guy that has an injury history where they take him and he ends up being good for the Lions. A couple of those things have to happen to get this kind of team over the top. So we'll see what they do, but got to get away from this whole choir boy across the board, because it's not working. Last question, Grifka, comes from Santa. And holiday season, Grifka, December. Santa sent a question, and Santa is coming from his SLAY. He's coming from his sleigh, Grifka. Wow, that's tremendous. Santa from his sleigh. He wants to know, hey, Grifka, do you return gifts to the place they came from when possible? And then when the person doesn't want you to return it, do you wag your finger at them?
Yes, I have returned gifts before. If I have said gift already, or if I'm like, okay, this gift isn't nice, I will not say to the person, why did you buy me this? I will wait till the next. I won't even do it the next day. I will wait, a couple days, and then I will slate back the said store, hoping I do not see them, and I will take the store credit. I'm fine with that.
Do you high step it to the return counter like our boy on Sunday did?
Yeah, no, I don't want to draw attention to myself. Like I said, I'm not trying to show anybody, oh, thank you for the dehydrator, but there's just no room on my counter for it, so I'm just going to bring it back.
I guess the finger wag would be better for the person that gave it to you when you didn't like the gift. That's the better finger wag. And you're telling me once they accept your return or your store credit, you don't drop to your knees and put your arms out and look to the heavens like Slay did on Sunday? Come on, Griff. I know you do that.
Only if I didn't have my receipt and they allowed me to return it, then I would do it.
Oh, man, no doubt about it. So, hey, Santa from your sleigh, it's an awesome question. And, you got to return the gifts when they're no good. But, yeah, don't tell the person, don't wag your finger, and be thankful when the store takes it back. So, Grifka, that's all we got on questions, man. Another victory for our Lions. Got one against the Cardinals. Felt like it's one they had to have. Got a little mojo heading into Buffalo. We'll be talking about that on Friday. Anything else for the people before we get out of here?
No, man. Just hopefully, like I said, short seasons left, and take as many W's as possible.
Will do. And Grifka's got his deposit on those playoff tickets. We encourage everybody to rate, subscribe, hit us up on iTunes. The Twitter feed, again, is Detroit_Koolaid. Just look for Detroit Koolaid Cast. Put that in your search bar on Twitter, or find us on some other platforms. We'd love to connect with you, talk some Lions football. That's always fun. So for me and for Grifka, we're going to tell you what we tell you every week, which is drink it in, man. And we'll be back Friday morning to talk about our Lions heading to Buffalo. So everybody, take care. Detroit Koolaid Cast, we're out.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions. Drink it in, man.